Okay, hi class. This is our last topic for the course, no? And expect your last quiz and fourth and final exam, okay, by December. Okay, so let's do this. Uh, this is the last part of reaction of nucleophiles, okay, which is reaction of carboxylic acid and its derivatives, okay. So the mechanism is also called nucleophilic substitution reaction, just like alkyl halides, alcohols, and ethers, except that the substitution happens at sp2 carbon, and this is the sp2 carbon. Okay, so to look at the general reaction mechanism, okay, the nucleophile has to look for the electrophilic side, and this is the one, no, the carbon. So there is a nucleophilic addition at the start, which is the same step as addition of aldehydes and ketones. But then for aldehydes and ketones, it stops right here. But for nucleophilic substitution, after the addition, the pi electron will return, will resonate, and remove the best leaving group. Okay, the best leaving group class would be the weaker or the weakest base, no? So that's why this nucleophile was able to displace this with the assumption that this leaving group, which is also a nucleophile, is a weaker base than this. Okay, so that's why substitution succeeds. Okay, so if we look at the different types of carboxylic acid derivatives in terms of their reactivity to nucleophilic substitution reaction, the most reactive is the acyl halide plus, followed by anhydride, followed by ester, followed by carboxylic acid. Ester and carboxylic acid have almost the same reactivity, and there is a reason for that one. And the least reactive is the amide. Now, why is that? Now, you look at the leaving groups of each. The leaving group in acyl halide is chloride. In anhydride, it is the carboxylate, no? The anion of carboxylic acid. In ester, it's alkoxide. In carboxylic acid, hydroxide. And in amide, the amide, NH2. And if we're going to assess the basicity of all this, the least basic class is the chloride, because it is the base of the conjugate acid, HCl, which is very strong. And if you recall in your inorganic chem, if the acid is strong, its conjugate base is weak. So since it is the weakest base, it is the best leaving group. And therefore, the acyl halide is the most reactive, followed by carboxylate group. And then you have alkoxide and hydroxide. Alkoxide is a strong base, just like hydroxide. But the strongest base is the amide class. So that's why it is the least reactive of all the carboxylic acid derivatives to nucleophilic substitution reaction. Okay? So if that is the case, then all these carboxylic acid derivatives, okay, can be synthesized using the most reactive, which is acyl halide. To illustrate that, look at this acyl halide, acetyl chloride or ethanoyl chloride. So in order to synthesize the anhydride, then all you have to do is use the nucleophile of the anhydride, which is the carboxylate. For example, sodium acetate. There, you have the carboxylate nucleophile. So this one can displace the chloride, no? Because carboxylate is a stronger base than the chloride, resulting into the formation of anhydride and the byproduct sodium chloride. So if we want to synthesize ester coming from acyl halide, so look at this example. You have ethanoyl chloride again, and then your nucleophile will be alkoxide. It is a sodium methoxide. So the methoxide can displace again the chloride to form an ester plus sodium chloride. So this process of making ester is what you call esterification. Okay. Now, for carboxylic acid, well, you can use water or sodium hydroxide, which are sources of OH. So in water, since water is not a strong base like sodium hydroxide, you have to heat this so that the chloride can be replaced. And sodium hydroxide, no need for heating. The chloride can immediately be replaced by OH, no? But in the end, you cannot produce acid. You will produce the salt, no? Because the H here is removed by the base. So that's why you end up with salt acetate instead of acetic acid. Okay, that's the only difference, no? Now, how about amide? Well, you can use ammonia. It's the source of NH2. So this one can also displace this to form the amide plus HCl. But then HCl can interact with this NH2, no? So in order to prevent that, we add 1 more mole of ammonia. That's why you have 2 moles of ammonia here. The role of the second ammonia is to neutralize the hydrochloric acid to form ammonium chloride or salt. Now, if you want to synthesize derivative of amide, you say derivative, that means this hydrogen is replaced by alkyl groups like methyl group. Then you can use methylamine, no? Again, 2 moles, no, to neutralize the HCl. So this one can displace again the chloride, no, initially producing this salt. Okay, the chloride will remove the H for this to become neutral. So you have now N-methyl acetamide. And the HCl, of course, will be neutralized by the second methylamine that you added. Okay, now, aside from those reactions, no, where all the carboxylic acid derivatives, okay, are synthesized from acyl halide, there are other methods of synthesizing them. For example, esterification. This can be done by mixing carboxylic acid and alcohol in the presence of an acid catalyst. The only disadvantage here is that the reaction is reversible, but it's a cheaper material. You can obtain carboxylic acid and alcohol by fermentation, right? No? You use yeast, using sugar, then you can produce acid and alcohol, okay? So if you add a small amount of sulfuric acid, it is an acid catalyzed reaction. Sulfuric acid can remove the water and it will generate the ester. However, the water can react with the ester through the process called hydrolysis, no? So this will go back to the product. So in order to prevent this, no, if there is an equilibrium, if you recall, according to Le Chatelier's principle, you can shift the reaction forward if you increase the concentration of the reactant. So either carboxylic acid or alcohol, no? This will shift forward and then you remove the water by evaporation so that it will always go back to the product, okay? So hydrolysis of ester can be in acidic, can be acid catalyzed. It can also be base catalyzed. So you have basic condition, no? So let's look at the basic hydrolysis of natural ester, no? And I am talking about fat or oil. These are natural esters, no? They are synthesized from the reaction of alcohol. In this case, the alcohol that is reacting is glycerol. A glycerol is an alcohol with 3 OH group. So therefore, it will require 3 carboxylic acids, okay? And that's why I indicate this with R prime, double prime, triple prime, no? Indicating that you have 3 types of carboxylic acid. And if the R group is a very long carbon chain like this one class, no? You call that fatty acid, no? And the carbon chain can have a double bond like this, alkene, no? If the fatty acid has double bond, we call that unsaturated fatty acid, no? If there are no double bonds, then we call that saturated fatty acid, okay? So fat has saturated fatty acid, oil has unsaturated fatty acid, okay? So if we want the oil to become fat, all we have to do is remove this double bond by reacting with hydrogen. The process is what you call hydrogenation, if you recall, okay? So if only a certain, if there is still remaining double bonds, then you will end up with a semi-solid, no? Like margarines or butter or cheese, no? Okay, now. So, alcohol will react with fatty acid in the presence of enzyme, of course, no? In nature. So, this enzyme catalyzes the reaction, removing the water to form what you call triester of glycerol, okay? So, if this one will undergo, this is, let us say this is oil, okay? This triester of glycerol is oil. And it undergoes what you call basic hydrolysis. So the OH, which is the nucleophile, will attack this by nucleophilic substitution, replacing the alcohol, right? So you will end up with 3 types of carboxylic acid, no? And your glycerol will be alkoxide. Look at that. And alkoxides are very strong bases. So they will remove the H of the carboxylic acid. So you will end up with the salt of the carboxylic acid. And this salt of carboxylic acid plus is what you call soap, okay? So the process is what you call saponification process, okay? And you know the function of soap, no? It is used in removing dirt from clothes, no? So those kind of substances are what you call surfactants, no? Now, what is the characteristic of a surfactant? A surfactant has a very long non-polar tail and a polar group, okay? And soap fits with that characteristic, okay? Why that kind of structure is needed in cleaning up dirt? Well, the non-polar part, okay, will remove the dirt according to the rule, like dissolves like, no? So dirt is basically non-polar. So the non-polar tail of your surfactant or soap will remove that, and the polar group will be attracted to the water that you are using in washing, no? Through hydrogen bonding, okay? So in effect, the dirt will be removed from the clothes, no? Now, but the efficiency of cleaning is very dependent on the type of water that we are using, no? If you are using hard water, we say hard water class, it's a type of water that contains a lot of ions like mineral water, no? Soft water is distilled water, no? So in hard water, you can find cations like magnesium, calcium, iron, okay? Now, there's a problem if you use hard water in washing, which is commonly used, no? We use deep well water, okay? So if these cations are present, they will precipitate the soap. So the soap will lose its Sand's power, okay? So its ability to clean, no, will decrease, okay? Because it will precipitate, no? So that's why new types of surfactants, okay, are synthesized in which the carboxylic acid group is replaced by these functional groups like ammonium ion, phosphate ion, sulfate ion. So we call this now detergents like Ariel, Tide, Breeze, okay? Those are detergents, okay? And they have an advantage because you can use hard water, no? These kind of surfactants would not precipitate if you use hard water. But there is an environmental problem for detergents, okay? Because, you know, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur are nutrients for the plants to grow. So when these washings reach rivers, lakes, canal, okay, there will be overgrowth of underwater plants. You call that eutrophication, okay? And you know, plants ultimately die, no? And dying is an oxidation process. So the plants will take the oxygen that is dissolved in rivers and lakes because they have to die, okay? So what will happen to other aerobic organisms like fish? Okay, the river and the lake become anaerobic, so they will die. So you have watched this on TV, no? Fishes are floating in Taal Lake, in Laguna, diba, no? Because of eutrophication, no? So you, as a responsible students of UP, no? Think about it, no? If you are washing, why not buy a pot, no? And then plant what can you plant in a pot? You have sili, you have talong, okay? You can place it, no? And then put your washing there, no? It's a fertilizer anyway. Oh, mas maganda pa yan. You are helping the environment to be clean. Right? So, there. Now, so, if you use acyl halide to synthesize all the carboxylic acid derivatives class, it's quite expensive, no? And as what I've said, carboxylic acid is cheaper. So we can synthesize acyl halide from carboxylic acid using these three types of reagents. You can use thionyl chloride, BCl3, or BCl5. No? For example, if you use thionyl chloride, this will remove the OH. No? It will be replaced by chlorine, and the byproducts are all gases, so no problem for equilibrium. No? So it will shift to the right, producing the acetyl chloride, and you can use this to synthesize all those carboxylic acid derivatives. Okay? Now, each carboxylic acid derivative has a specific reaction class. No? Like, for example, here, if you recall in aldehydes and ketones, no, the alpha hydrogen can be removed by a base through the process called haloform reaction. No? Okay? Alpha halogenation reaction. Okay? So, in carboxylic acid, there is also an alpha hydrogen. No? So this can also be replaced by halogen using bromine in the presence of phosphorus. No? You can also use chlorine if you want. No? So if you use this hydrogen can be replaced by, sorry, bakit naging chlorine to? Palitan natin. Bromine dapat yan. Play plus. Yan. Okay. So you have only one replacement, no? Second replacement will not happen. So you call that alpha halogenation. And there's a specific name for this alpha halogenation of carboxylic acid plus, no? You call this Hell-Volhard-Zelensky reaction, okay? Now, for ester naman, under basic condition, it can undergo what you call Claisen condensation reaction, no? Claisen condensation reaction requires 2 moles of the reactants, just like aldol condensation reaction of aldehydes and ketones. No? Now here, in order for this process to happen, you have to use a base as a catalyst, no? Now, the base that is used here is not sodium hydroxide. Unlike in aldol, you can use sodium hydroxide. But here you cannot do that, okay? The base that you're going to use, okay, will be the base coming from the alkoxide of ester, which is ethoxide, no? They have to be similar. Why? Because if you use hydroxide, the hydroxide can remove the acidic hydrogen from the alpha carbon, but the hydroxide can also undergo nucleophilic substitution here, right? So you are changing the product now, because if this one will displace this, you will end up with acetic acid, okay? You don't want that to happen, no? So in order for Claisen condensation to succeed, the base that you're going to use will be the same as the alkoxide here. Okay? That's why we use sodium ethoxide. Okay? Kasi kahit papalitan yan dyan, ayos lang kasi pareho lang naman. Okay? So the alkoxide will remove the acidic hydrogen here. And what will happen to the reaction? Okay? If you have 2 moles of ester with alpha hydrogen or acidic hydrogen in the presence of alkoxide, no, that is similar to this one, it will produce what you call a beta keto ester. No? If you recall in aldol condensation, okay, that reaction produces beta hydroxy ketone, no, or aldehyde. Here naman, it will produce beta ketone. Okay, ester. Okay, so if you have this kind of product, you're going to suspect that the process is Claisen condensation reaction. So in order to understand this reaction, look at the mechanism. First, there are 2 molecules, right? So the first molecule is used to produce the nucleophile. No? So the base will remove the acidic hydrogen here to produce the nucleophile. No? This is negatively charged, so this is now a nucleophile. So this nucleophile will attack the second molecule of ester by nucleophilic substitution. Look at that. That's substitution reaction already. Okay. So when this one attacks this, you will end up with beta keto ester. No? And of course, the byproduct is the catalyst, no? Ethoxide. So that is Claisen condensation reaction. And the activity, we can actually compare the reactivity of Claisen condensation reaction plus, no? Based on the structure of the alpha carbon containing the hydrogen. Look at these 3 types of ester. Okay. Here you have the alpha carbon with this acidic hydrogen, alpha carbon with this acidic hydrogen, and alpha carbon with this one remaining acidic hydrogen. Okay. So if there is no alpha carbon, of course, there is no alpha hydrogen, there is no Claisen condensation. So dapat nandyan yung alpha hydrogen na yan. Okay. So which of the 3 is the most reactive and the least reactive? Now, the most reactive class will be the first one, no? Because it is less crowded. So stirring effect is very important in Claisen condensation reaction. Look at this. You have 2 alkyl groups, okay? So it's a very crowded alpha carbon. So very difficult for the base to remove this acidic hydrogen. So that's why this is the least reactive of the 3, okay? Now, for anhydrides, no? Anhydrides can undergo hydrolysis, no? Like as illustrated here, just like an ester, it can be attacked by water, no? Water has hydroxide, so therefore this one can replace the carboxylate, so producing 2 moles of carboxylic acid. So your acetic acid, okay, if exposed to water, will be converted to acetic acid by hydrolysis reaction. Okay. How about the amides? Okay, here. Can it react with water by hydrolysis, just like anhydride? No. Why? Because amide is a stronger base than hydroxide. So it cannot displace, you know, strong base, okay, cannot easily be replaced, no? So that's why there is no reaction, okay? Similarly, if you use alkoxide, it cannot also displace because amide is a stronger base than methoxide. So no reaction also, okay? So you can also predict the reactivity class, okay, to nucleophilic substitution, okay, for the same functional group. Like here you have acyl halide, but then you attach that to a benzene ring in which you place a substituent to the benzene ring. So you cannot base the reactivity here on the leaving group because they are the same, chlorine. But these two are not of the same reactivity. So where are you going to base that? On the positivity of the carbon here, because this is the one that will be attacked by nucleophile, no? So the more positive that carbon class, the faster the nucleophilic substitution, okay? So here, if you place an electron withdrawing group to the benzene ring, you know, withdrawing group, this will pull electron clouds, right? So they can pull electron by resonance, if you recall. So this will make the carbon here more positive. So therefore, the right will be more reactive than the left because there is an electron withdrawing group, okay? Similarly, no, if you have this series of compounds that will undergo nucleophilic substitution reaction, this is an ester, okay? This is ester with chlorine in the benzene ring, ester with methyl group in the benzene ring, and ester with methoxy group in the benzene ring. How are you going to arrange this in increasing reactivity to nucleophilic substitution reaction? Now, well, electron withdrawing group will make this one more positive. Electron donating will decrease the positivity of this, okay? So expect the most reactive, okay, are those groups with electron withdrawing, and the least reactive are those groups with electron donating, okay? So therefore, since you are asked to arrange this in increasing reactivity, that means low to high. So you start with groups with electron donating. But here we have two electron donating, methyl and methoxy. Which one is more electron donating will be the least reactive. Now, if you recall, methoxy can donate electrons by resonance because there's a lone pair there, while methyl donates electron by sigma, electron delocalization. So which one can easily be donated? Of course, the lone pair. So this is the least reactive. 4 is the least reactive, followed by 3. No? And next to 3, of course, those that do not have substituents, which is 1. And the most reactive, of course, is 2 because it has an electron withdrawing group. Okay, now, carboxylic acid can also undergo dehydration to form anhydrides. No? You just have to use a dehydrating agent like aluminum phosphate. Take, for example, this one. No? You call this phthalic anhydride. No? Phthalic acid. Okay? Benzene with 2 carboxylic acids at the ortho positions. No? So if you add a dehydrating agent, water will be removed as illustrated here, resulting into the formation of what you call phthalic anhydride. Okay. Now you can also, this is intermolecular dehydration, intramolecular dehydration. Well, this one here is what you call intermolecular dehydration. No? You have acetic acid here. If you add aluminum phosphate, water will be removed, producing what you call acetic anhydride. No? So this is another way of producing anhydride aside from the previous reaction, which we discussed, wherein we use acyl halide and you react that with carboxylate to produce anhydride also. Okay, so that's that ends the reaction for nucleophiles. Okay, now let's go to the last topic, which is redox reaction. Okay, so Redox reaction class means reduction, oxidation reaction. No? And they will occur at the same time. No? If one is undergoing reduction, the other reactant should undergo oxidation. That's why it's called redox reaction. Okay, and reduction means gain of electron, right? Okay. It also means decrease in oxidation number or oxidation state of the element, no? Or in organic chemistry, it means addition of hydrogen. Okay? While oxidation means loss of electron, okay? Or increase in oxidation number. Or in organic chemistry, it means addition of oxygen, removal of hydrogen. Okay, so let's start with reduction. And we use the third way of interpreting reduction, and that is addition of hydrogen. So look at the reaction of alkenes and alkynes. They can undergo hydrogenation in the presence of metal catalysts like platinum, nickel, or palladium. So here, the pi electron, okay, will disappear, forming alkane. Now in alkyne, of course, there are 2 pi electrons, so you need more hydrogen to replace that, or to react with that, also producing alkane. Okay, so here there is no control process. All the pi electrons disappear. But if you want only 1 pi electron to disappear in alkyne, you have to use specific reagents like Lindlar's catalyst or lithium in the presence of liquid ammonia. This will remove only 1 pi electron, producing an alkene. And the reaction is stereospecific plus, because if you use Lindlar's, you will end up with what you call cis alkene. But if you use lithium with liquid ammonia, it will produce the alkene, which is in the trans configuration. Okay, so they are very specific. So do you think alkene will react with Lindlar's or lithium with liquid ammonia? Of course, no, because the reaction stops us at alkene. So if your starting reactant is alkene, and you use Lindlar's or lithium in liquid ammonia, then your answer should be no reaction. Okay. Now, what other reducing agents? 2 other reducing agents are used in organic reaction. You have what you call lithium aluminum hydride and sodium borohydride. The reducing agent here, class, is hydride. And they are used to reduce polar groups like cyanide. They cannot reduce non-polar group like alkenes and alkynes. So take note, lithium aluminum hydride and sodium borohydride cannot reduce alkenes and alkynes, but they can reduce polar group like cyanide. So if, for example, if you use lithium aluminum hydride, all these pi bonds will disappear and you will end up with amine, ethyl amine. Okay. Now, how about for aldehydes and ketones? Aldehydes and ketones, sodium borohydride, by the way, is a weaker reducing agent than lithium aluminum hydride. So sodium borohydride cannot reduce cyanide, only lithium aluminum hydride. How about if you have aldehydes and ketones? These 2 can be reduced by sodium borohydride, okay? Converting the carbonyl group into alcohol, okay? So from ethanol to ethanol. The same thing with ketone, that carbonyl group will become a secondary alcohol, okay? So from acetone to isopropyl alcohol. So can this be reduced by lithium aluminum hydride instead of sodium borohydride? Yes, because lithium aluminum hydride is a stronger reducing agent than sodium borohydride. Okay, these 2 can also be reduced through hydrogenation in the presence of metal catalyst. Pwede din, Now, how about the carboxylic acid and its derivatives? No? So if you want to reduce carboxylic acid, ester, and amide by hydrogenation process using nickel, palladium, or platinum catalyst class, they cannot be reduced. I repeat, they cannot be reduced. These carboxylic acid derivatives, no? But they can be reduced by lithium aluminum hydride. Take note, but they cannot be reduced by hydrogenation. So look at this. Carboxylic acid, if you use lithium aluminum hydride followed by acid catalyst, okay, this will become alcohol. So from acetic acid to ethyl alcohol. Same thing with ester. No? If you react this with these reducing agents, two alcohols are formed. From here, from the two carbon on the left, will form ethyl alcohol. From the alcohol side, will form methanol. Okay. Now, how about amide? Okay. Well, for amide, it's the replacement of the carbonyl group with hydrogen, resulting into ethylamine. Okay. So you see, all of the three are reduced by lithium aluminum hydride, no? But they cannot be reduced by hydrogenation process. Okay. How about the acyl halide, which is the most reactive of all the carboxylic acid derivatives? No? Well, if you use lithium aluminum hydride, the hydride can replace the chlorine, no, to form, okay, ethanol, no, and the ethanol can still be reduced, no, because we said aldehyde can be reduced by lithium aluminum hydride. So after replacing the chlorine with hydride, you form ethanol. And the ethanol can react again with hydride to form ethanol. Okay. Now, in the case of sodium borohydride, which is less reactive than lithium aluminum hydride, the reaction will only stop up to the aldehyde. Okay. Hanggang dyan lang. Okay. So here we have another special reagents for reduction. And this is special because the carbonyl group is completely replaced by hydrogen. No? So hindi alcohol yung product, kundi alkane. No? So in order for this one to happen, you have to use an amalgam, no? Which is an alloy of zinc and mercury in the presence of hydrochloric acid. Okay, the reaction of metal with acid, okay, will result to the formation of hydrogen gas. And that hydrogen gas will replace the oxygen, resulting into the formation of alkane or ethyl benzene. Okay. And if you use this reagent, the process is what you call Clemmensen reduction. Okay. You can also use hydrazine plus under basic conditions. The same reaction will happen as you can see here. But if you use this reagent, you call the process Wolff-Kishner reduction. Okay. Now for nitro groups, no, like nitrobenzene, we can also replace the oxygen here using metal in the presence of an acid like tin in hydrochloric acid or iron in hydrochloric acid. Both will produce hydrogen gas replacing the oxygen. So the nitrobenzene will become aniline. Okay. So now let's move on to oxidation reaction. Okay. So what are the common oxidizing agents in organic reactions? Well, you have potassium permanganate, ozone, and potassium dichromate. If you use ozone in oxidation class, you call the process ozonolysis. And there are two types of ozonolysis. You have what you call reductive ozonolysis, and the other one is oxidative ozonolysis. Okay. So what's the difference? So let's look at the examples here. So there are two reagents. No? First, you add ozone and then followed by a reducing agent like zinc in the presence of water or dimethyl sulfide. Okay. So here are the different structures of alkene. You have 2-butene, you have 1-propene, you have 2-methyl-2-butene, and you have 1-methyl-cyclohexene. Okay. So when you use ozone as an oxidizing agent class, followed by a reducing agent, which we call reductive ozonolysis, you are expecting aldehydes and ketone products only. Remember, aldehydes and ketone products only. Okay, so to predict those products, all you have to do is cut the double bond and insert the oxygen left and right as illustrated here. You see? So you will end up with that product. And you notice they are the same. So your main product is only ethanol. Okay. How about the second structure if you cut this? So the left will become ethanol. The right will become methanol. Okay. For the third structure, cut this one. The left will become a ketone, acetone. And the right will become ethanol. So you have two different products. How about for the cyclic one? No? So if you cut this, you will have a double bond here, and you will have a double bond at the bottom. Okay, so you'll end up with ketone and aldehyde in one structure. Okay, and this kind of reaction class can actually be used to predict the reactant. Let us say you have a question mark here. Okay, you are asked to determine the alkene if this is the product by ozonolysis. How are you going to predict your alkene? All you have to do is remove the oxygen here, remove the oxygen here, and connect the two like this. So you will end up with a cyclic alkene, which is your cyclohexene. You see, if you cut this, you will produce this. Okay, so it's a way of determining the reactant. Okay, now what will happen if you do oxidative ozonolysis instead of reductive ozonolysis? Well, in oxidative ozonolysis, you are expecting ketone and carboxylic acid products, no aldehyde product. Okay, the aldehyde will become carboxylic acid. Okay, what are the reaction conditions? Well, one would be ozone followed by an oxidizing agent like hydrogen peroxide. Okay, so you go back to our first example again. Ito yung product niya, no? Pag reductive ozonolysis, in oxidative ozonolysis, since you add an oxidizing agent, an aldehyde is oxidizable because there is still hydrogen here that can be replaced by oxygen. So you will end up with two molecules of acetic acid. Okay. How about the product in reductive ozonolysis? No? If you do oxidative, again, this is aldehyde. So this will become carboxylic acid in oxidative. Okay. This one will become carboxylic acid. Now, since this is terminal, meaning at the end, ultimately it will become carbon dioxide. Okay. How about the third product in reductive? Okay. Well, this is ketone. It is still ketone here. Why? Because the carbon here has no replaceable hydrogen anymore. So meaning ketone cannot be oxidized. But the aldehyde, meron pang replaceable hydrogen. Kaya magiging carboxylic acid yan dito sa oxidative. How about the cyclic? Diba ito yung product sa reductive? Now ketone yan, ketone pa rin dito. Pero yung aldehyde magiging carboxylic acid. Ganyan. Okay? Now, next oxidizing agent is potassium permanganate. So, there are different conditions for this one. For the second one, it could be an acid and then you heat it, or it could be a base and then you heat it. Okay? The products of this, no, the product is the same as oxidative ozonolysis. Okay? So, kung ano yung nakita mong product sa oxidative, ganon din yan sa potassium permanganate, whether it is in acidic medium or basic medium. Okay? Now, the third condition for potassium permanganate is page 7. Diba? Meron kang acidic, basic. Now, if you make the condition neutral and then you place that in an ice bath, so cold, okay? There will be no breaking of the double bond, okay? Only the pi bond, no? So there is partial oxidation. So when you add potassium permanganate that is neutral and cold, this portion here will become diol, as you can see here, no? So hindi naputol. Yung pi bond lang yung na-oxidize, no? So you can also use, okay, osmium tetraoxide. And the second reagent should be sodium bicarbonate, no? The same product, diol din yan. Okay? Now let's go to the, now in the laboratory setting, the use of potassium permanganate as an oxidizing agent is what you call Bayer's test. Okay? And how would you know that oxidation proceeds? Because permanganate is purple. So if it oxidizes organic compound, as illustrated here, no, your permanganate will be reduced to MnO2. So that is +7 to +4. So that is reduction. Okay. So the purple will turn brown, chocolate brown, which indicates the presence of MnO2. Okay. Kung purple lang siya, di walang oxidation. Okay. So there. Now, the other oxidizing agent is potassium dichromate. No? And potassium dichromate is commonly used to oxidize alcohols. Okay? And take note that alcohol, okay, can be primary, secondary, or tertiary. Example of primary is ethanol. No? Why is it called primary? Because the carbon containing the OH is only attached to one alkyl group. Secondary, the carbon containing the OH is attached to two alkyl groups, and tertiary, 3. Okay? So, in order to predict whether that alcohol can be oxidized, you have to look for the hydrogen that will be replaced by oxygen. And which hydrogen are we talking about? The hydrogen at the alpha carbon. Okay? Now, in alcohol, the alpha carbon is the first carbon kasi ito lang naman yung functional group niya, OH. So the second carbon is called beta. Now, it's different from aldehyde. Kasi yung alpha carbon ng aldehyde, yung pangalawa. Kasi yung first carbon is part of the functional group. Do you understand? Okay, so there. So, in ethyl alcohol, you have alpha hydrogen. So this is oxidizable. So when you add an oxidizing agent, potassium dichromate, the oxidation state of chromium there is +6. And its color is orange because it is placed in acidic medium. So this hydrogen will be replaced by oxygen, resulting into the formation of carboxylic acid. So from ethanol to ethanoic acid. And what happens to your chromium? It will be reduced from +6 to +3. And the color change would be from orange to green. Now, for secondary alcohol, there is still alpha hydrogen here. So again, this can be replaced by, this can be oxidized, resulting into the formation of acetone lang, ketone, hindi carboxylic acid. Kasi pag naglagay ka pa ng OH dyan, 5 bonds na yung nasa carbon, hindi pwede. Okay? So yung mga secondary alcohol, ang product nila ketone. And the same thing from orange to green. How about the tertiary alcohol? You notice there, the carbon has no alpha hydrogen. So if you add potassium dichromate plus, there is no reaction. It will remain as orange. Okay. Now, how about aldehydes and ketones? So if you notice in the structure, the aldehyde has replaceable hydrogen. So meaning aldehyde is oxidizable, but ketone is not. No? Because there is no alpha hydrogen. Okay. So we can differentiate the reactions of these two using specific oxidizing agents. So what are the oxidizing agents to differentiate aldehyde from ketone class? One is called Tollens reagent. No? So Tollens reagent, the active reagent there is actually silver +1 in the form of what you call silver diamine complex. Okay. So if you add Tollens reagent, this aldehyde will become carboxylic acid. And your silver ion will be reduced to silver metal. And you know the color of silver metal, no? Gray siya na shiny, no? So that will coat the test tube like a mirror. So that's why this test is what you call silver mirror test. How about if you add tolens to ketone? No reaction, no? Kasi wala namang hydrogen na ma-oxidize, okay? Another oxidizing agent class is Benedict's reagent. In Benedict's reagent naman, the active reagent is copper plus 2 in the form of cupric sulfate in basic medium. And the color of this one is blue, no? So if you add Benedict's reagent to aldehyde, again, this will be replaced, resulting into carboxylic acid, and your copper plus 2 will be reduced to copper plus 1 in the form of cuprous oxide, which is red. No? Now, if you use Benedict's for ketone, again, no reaction. Okay? Now, in basic medium, copper will precipitate as cupric hydroxide. No? So there's a problem. Because if the copper here, which is the oxidizing agent, will precipitate, there will be no reaction with aldehyde. Okay? So in order for that not to happen, okay, scientists add what you call a chelating agent. Okay? A chelating agent class is a reagent that will try to hold the copper so that it will not precipitate. Just like a crab, no? Hawakan siya, no? So in Benedict's reagent, the chelating agent is what you call sodium citrate. Okay? Now there is another reagent that has a similar reaction, and you call it Fehling's reagent. No? It is also copper sulfate in basic medium, except that the chelating agent is sodium potassium tartrate. It is also called Rochelle salt. Okay? And that's it, class, no? For redox reactions, no? So we end the course, no? So expect the exam December 10 and December 17, no? So I'm going to send this, no? Inulit ko yung lecture kasi nagka-problema kahapon, okay? So that's all for today, class, okay? I hope everybody will pass the course, okay? Thank you.